Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're looking at this pretty intense topic.
Yeah.
So we've got this phrase everyone knows, and it's been like totally flipped, and now it's being used as a weapon online.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of wild, right?
It is.
We've got a recent news article on it talking about all these online attacks against women, and then we've got Nick Fuentes' Wikipedia page.
Right.
He's this far-right figure who's like at the center of this whole thing.
Yeah. Seems to be a recurring character in a lot of these online spaces.
Yeah, for sure. So basically what we're going to try and do today is figure out how this phrase, evolved.
Yeah.
And what it says about the online world and how it's all...
Yeah, how it all connects. I think that's the big question.
Yeah.
How it connects to the real world.
Exactly.
It's easy to dismiss what happens online.
Right.
But it always seems to find a way to spill over.
Totally. Okay, so most people know the phrase, my body, my choice, from the reproductive rights movement.
Right.
Right. And it's all about having control over your own decisions and your own body. But then you have Nick Fuentes, and it's like a totally different story.
Very different.
He's got these extreme views like white supremacy, anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, and it's like all this stuff clashes so hard with the original meaning of the phrase.
Yeah, it's a pretty stark contrast.
Right.
So the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, or ISD, they track online extremism. And their research has shown that Fuentes is one of the key figures in what they call the manosphere.
The manosphere.
Yeah, so it's this network of online communities, and they basically promote misogyny.
Wow.
And it ranges from general anti-feminism to some groups that advocate violence against women.
That's scary.
It is scary.
It is really scary.
It's just a scary corner of the internet.
And that's where the phrase gets twisted.
Yeah.
So just a couple of days after the election, Fuentes tweets, "Your body, my choice, forever." And it just seems like this small change, but like one word flips the whole script.
Completely changes the meaning.
Totally. So the ISD actually found that mentions of your body, my choice on Twitter, or X as we should call it now, jumped by like 4,600% after Fuentes' tweet.
Yeah, that's their data.
It's insane.
It's a huge jump.
It's wild. And women started reporting harassment using this phrase on TikTok and other platforms too.
It spreads so quickly online.
Yeah.
It's really unbelievable.
So instead of being about like a woman's right to choose, it becomes this aggressive statement, like almost possessive.
Right.
It's like they're trying to take ownership.
Exactly. It's a way to silence women and deny them agency. And it's not just this one phrase either. The news article highlights some other disturbing slogans that are trending, like, "We own your body." Oh. It's really a widespread hate campaign.
It's so disturbing.
Yeah.
And it gets even creepier.
How so?
The ISD report mentions young girls being targeted with this phrase in schools.
No.
Can you imagine, like, hearing those words thrown at you in the hallway?
It's awful.
Beyond messed up.
It is. And this is what's so concerning about online hate. It so often spills over into the real world.
Right.
The article we have even mentions incidents of offline harassment, too.
Really?
Yeah, women being confronted with this phrase in public.
Ah, that's so disturbing.
It is disturbing.
Like, that's what makes all of this so scary.
It has real-world consequences.
Yeah, for sure. So what are social media platforms doing about it? Anything.
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
The article actually focuses on how Twitter, now X, and TikTok have handled the situation.
Okay.
And there's a pretty noticeable difference in their approaches.
Okay.
So Twitter's harassment policy is still pretty narrow, even under Musk. It focuses mainly on, like, direct attacks against individuals. And they've been really slow to address this specific situation.
Interesting.
Now, TikTok has been a bit more proactive.
Okay.
They've stated that your body, my choice, when used in this way, goes against their community guidelines.
Okay.
And they're actively removing that content. They even took down videos flagged by CNN that hinted at violence. So they're taking it more seriously, it seems.
Yeah.
But even with their efforts, moderating online hate is just a really tough job.
Yeah.
Platforms are constantly struggling to find that balance between free speech and protecting users from harmful content.
Right. It's like, where do you even draw the line?
Exactly. It's an ongoing debate.
It's like trying to put out a wildfire.
Yeah.
You stop one flame and another one pops up somewhere else.
A good analogy.
And with algorithms designed to push engaging content, it's like, how do you control how these ideas spread?
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
So to understand Fuentes' motives a little better, we need to look at his history.
Yeah.
He's been a vocal supporter of Donald Trump for a long time.
Right, from the beginning, it seems.
Yeah, and this is where things get even weirder.
Okay.
In November of 2022, Trump hosted both Fuentes and Kanye West.
Oh, yeah, Kanye West, who now goes by Ye.
Right.
Yeah.
For dinner at Mar-a-Lago.
I remember that.
Yeah, it caused a massive uproar.
Huge controversy. Yeah. It drew bipartisan condemnation.
Mm-hmm.
It was shocking to a lot of people that Trump would even associate with someone as extreme as Fuentes, especially considering Fuentes' history of anti-Semitic statements.
Right.
It really raised questions about whether these extreme views were becoming more acceptable in certain political circles.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
And this wasn't even the first time Trump's been linked to far-right figures.
Right.
And he's often hesitant to condemn anti-Semitism and white supremacy outright, which just adds to the concern about the rise of extremism.
It's a disturbing trend, for sure.
Yeah. So this whole situation with Fuentes and this twisted phrase,
Right.
it's like this microcosm of a much bigger problem.
Yeah, I see that.
It shows how online hate can quickly move offline.
Right.
And also like the role that public figures play in all of this.
They have a responsibility.
Totally. And what I find interesting, too, is that Fuentes uses tactics like irony and humor to mask his hateful beliefs.
Right.
He tries to make them seem less offensive and appeal to a younger audience.
Trying to make it cool.
Right. Like making white supremacy cool or something.
Exactly. It's a very dangerous game he's playing.
Yeah, and we've already seen how this type of rhetoric leads to real-world consequences.
For sure.
So the question is, what can we even do to stop it?
That's the million-dollar question.
I think that's a question for part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll talk about the role of education being critical thinkers online and what we can all do to push back against this hate.
Sounds good. I'm interested to hear what you found.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
This whole situation shows how online platforms can be good and bad. Like they can be amazing tools for marginalized voices, you know?
Right.
Especially for movements like my body, my choice.
They played a big role in that movement gaining momentum.
Exactly. But then you see what Fuentes and his followers are doing.
Right.
And it's like these platforms can be weaponized to spread hate and these like twisted ideologies.
Yeah.
They exploit how fast the internet is and how far things can spread. Right. It's crazy.
A prime example of how the internet can be used for good or bad.
Absolutely. And it really shows how important media literacy is. Especially for younger generations who've grown up with these platforms.
Right.
We need to give them the skills to think critically online.
Totally.
So they can spot hate speech and misinformation and all these manipulation tactics.
Yeah, it's not enough to just say, don't believe everything you read online.
Right.
We need to give them the tools to analyze the information they're seeing.
Yes, exactly.
Evaluate the sources and understand how algorithms work.
And how online communities can shape their perceptions.
Right. It's about being responsible digital citizens.
It is.
And that means not just recognizing hate speech, but understanding how their own behavior online contributes to the problem.
Or the solution.
Right, exactly. So it's not just what we see online, but also what we post and share.
Every click, every share, it all matters.
It all amplifies certain voices and viewpoints.
Exactly. Which brings us back to platform moderation.
Right. We talked about that a bit earlier.
Yeah. Platforms need to remove illegal content and enforce their rules.
Right.
But they also need to think about how to encourage healthy online conversations and how to limit the spread of hate speech.
But that's tricky, right?
It is.
Like, where's the line between free speech and harmful content?
Exactly. And who even gets to make that decision?
Right. It's a tough one.
It's a balancing act, for sure. And with so much content being created every second, it feels almost impossible to manage it all.
Yeah, so what can platforms do?
Well, besides hiring tons of content moderators.
Which isn't always effective.
Right, exactly. Or even possible.
One approach is to focus on algorithmic transparency and control.
Okay.
We know that algorithms have a huge impact on what we see online.
Yeah.
They often prioritize engagement and things that go viral over accuracy or nuance.
Like how YouTube's algorithm used to send people down these rabbit holes of extreme content. Exactly. So platforms need to be more open about how their algorithms work and give users more control over what they see.
I like that idea.
Me too. It's about giving users more agency.
It's also about building a sense of community online.
Yeah.
Like shared responsibility.
I agree.
We need to move beyond just reporting individual cases of hate speech and create environments where that behavior is challenged and discouraged.
We've seen how powerful online communities can be when they want to create positive change.
Totally.
We need that same energy to combat online hate.
staying silent can be just as harmful.
It can.
Like if you see something, say something.
Yes.
Report it, call it out, start a conversation.
Exactly. And these conversations need to happen offline too.
Yeah.
Our friends, our families.
Colleagues.
Yeah, even our elected officials.
Because like we saw with Fuentes in this your body, my choice thing.
Right.
What happens online doesn't stay online.
Unfortunately not.
It affects our schools, our workplaces.
Our political discourse.
Everything.
It's all connected.
And if we don't challenge these hateful ideologies,
yeah,
they'll just keep spreading and growing.
And that could have devastating consequences.
It's scary to think about, but we can't ignore it.
We have to confront it.
So we've talked about the origins of this twisted phrase.
Yeah.
The dark corners of the internet where it thrives.
Yeah.
The real threat it poses. So where do we go from here?
Well, what's crucial now is recognizing that this isn't just some fringe online thing.
Okay.
Fuentes might be the face of this particular incident.
Right.
But his views, unfortunately, resonate with a larger system of online hate and real-world extremism.
We talked about Fuentes' support for Trump.
Right.
And that dinner at Mar-a-Lago. But this goes beyond any one politician or political party.
You're absolutely right. It's about recognizing the bigger picture.
Okay.
The rise of white nationalism, the normalization of misogyny, the increasing boldness of anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Wow.
These forces have been brewing for a while, and the internet has given them a place to spread and gain traction.
It's not just like blatant hate speech anymore either.
Right.
It's the dog whistles, you know,
the
coded language and this misinformation that just twists how people see the world.
It's like a virus mutating, you know?
Right.
Adapting to stay under the radar.
Yeah.
And it feeds on people's fears and insecurities and prejudices.
That's a good point. So, like, going back to, like, individual responsibility, what can we do to fight this as everyday people?
Well, education is key.
Okay.
We have to understand these ideologies, how they work their historical context. Like, where does this hate come from? Knowing that is essential to stopping it.
And just being critical thinkers.
Yes, right.
Especially online.
Yeah, don't just accept information blindly. Question your sources. Think about biases.
Look for evidence.
Yeah, be thoughtful about what you're consuming.
Don't just passively absorb it.
Right.
And be willing to have tough conversations.
Yeah, even when they're uncomfortable.
Even when it's with, like, people you know.
Exactly. Family, friends.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those are the hardest conversations.
Yeah, for sure. We also need to hold each other accountable.
Yes.
Call out hate speech when you see it.
Whether it's from a friend or a family member or someone online, saying nothing just makes you complicit.
Totally. We have to create a culture where this stuff is just not acceptable.
Yeah.
Where it's challenged and rejected.
And support organizations fighting hate and extremism.
Yes, good point.
There
are groups doing some amazing work.
Yeah, they're tracking online hate educating communities.
Pushing for policy changes.
And don't forget, your voice matters too.
That's right.
Get involved in your community, contact your elected officials, and demand action against hate speech and discrimination.
It's a long fight.
It is.
And there are no easy answers.
No, but it's a fight worth fighting.
Yeah, I think this deep dive shows just how urgent this is.
Right.
We can't just sit back and do nothing.
We have to stay vigilant, informed, and engaged.
Yeah, the future depends on it.
It really does.
So, to our listeners, we'll leave you with this. What role will you play in creating a more just and equitable world?
Both online and offline.
Think critically, speak up, and choose love over hate.
The power is in our hands.
That's a great way to end this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.